Hi friends, I'm Leilani Tattoos and welcome to my channel. Today we're gonna break down the basic principles of color realism from the very beginning. Let's get started. I use color every day in my artwork and especially in my tattooing. So I've been an artist my entire life and I started with black and gray realism, and that was a really good stepping stone into color realism because it taught me the values and value scale, and value is so important in tattooing. And so when I was ready to learn color realism, I went on a journey to learn from the best artists from around the world like Deanna James, Rich Harris, and animal tattooer Natasha. They taught me how to apply color without traumatizing the skin, proper saturation, and a lot around color theory and composition to make a beautiful color realism tattoo. I would say learning color realism in tattooing, the resources are extremely limited unless you have a mentorship and somebody is teaching you who has experience in color realism, but not a lot of people are willing to take on apprentices at the moment. It's hard to get an apprenticeship, or some online seminars or in-person seminars are really expensive and not everyone has the money to travel around the world and go see these amazing color realism artists. So I want to share what I've learned and a little bit what I'm doing that has helped me progress as a color realism artist. And once you start understanding the basics, your artwork becomes more intentional, powerful, and more clear. So for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to teach you everything I wish I knew around color when it comes to color realism, and especially tattooing. So what is color theory? Color theory is basically the language of colors. It explains why certain colors work well against each other and why certain colors don't. Let's start with the color wheel, the map of all colors. So first you have your primary colors, which are your red, blues, and yellows. Then you have secondary colors, green, orange, and purple. And you use the primary colors mixed together to get these secondary colors. So these are just two primary colors mixed together to get these three colors. Tertiary colors, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, and these colors fill the gaps between the color wheel. So next we're going to talk about the three elements of color: hue, value, and chroma. And these terminologies are actually really important to know when you're creating your own design, and maybe when you're asking for feedback from other color realism artists. Knowing these concepts and terms are really going to help you become the best artist possible. So hue is actually just the true color. So a red is a hue, a blue is a hue. You're not mixing anything with a hue, it is just the pure color. So value, it is your scale from dark to light or light to dark, and it's actually very important to understand your values when you're creating a color realism piece, because when you're creating color realism, especially as a tattoo, you don't know if your color values are correct unless you turn them into black and gray. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, but when you have a great value scale for your color realism, that's when your tattoo pops forward and looks dynamic from a distance and ages well over time. And then we have chroma, which I think is one of the most important elements of color realism, because chroma, which is the intensity of your color, will make a big impact in how the color heals in, let's say, more melanin skin. So high chroma is a more intense, brighter, more saturated ink. And then low chroma is a more muted, maybe pastel ink. And you want to make sure you choose the right one, because how it's going to heal in a tattoo will affect your design. This matters so much in tattooing because a higher chroma heals brighter, a lower chroma heals, I would say, smoother, a little softer, and mixed together they create a lot of dimension in color realism. Temperature is one of my favorite parts of color realism and tattooing, and this is why. Warm colors, reds, oranges, yellows, they're more alive, they have a lot more of motion, and they come forward in a tattoo. Cool colors, blues, greens, or purples, they sit back a little bit more in a tattoo and they feel a lot more calm and distant, I would say. And when you mix warm and cool colors, you bring a lot of balance and color harmony into your tattoos, which is something I really personally like to do, especially in some of my larger pieces and in my roses. So you do have to be careful though, because when you have a warm red and a cool red next to each other, they do clash and they cancel each other out. It's not pleasing to the eyes, and that's where we're going to talk about complementary colors next. Complementary colors. Complementary colors sit opposite from each other on the color wheel. So we have red and green, blue and orange, and yellow and purple. And when you mix them together, they actually mute each other. So for example, when you mix red and green together, it kind of makes this brownie muted color. But when you have red and green next to each other, let's say Christmas, for example, it's super bright and vibrant. Complementary contrast is one of the most important tools in color realism because it makes your piece look balanced and it doesn't make it look like it's all over the place, where the eye can't focus on anything, where there's no emotion. When you have too many colors, it actually doesn't work. It does a disservice to the design. So choosing the right complementary colors will make your design harmonized and balanced. So split complementary, I use this a lot in my designs. It essentially involves one dominant hue, and then you have two hues that are adjacent to the dominant hue on the color wheel. So this is a rose that I did, and I used split complementary, and I chose to do it because I liked it better than just choosing a basic monochromatic design. And I found that instead of using complementary colors, it's a little bit less aggressive. It's more smooth and easier to the eye. So the outer petals of this rose is a blue-green, which is kind of a teal, and I wanted it to be a little bit more of a green hue because the two adjacent colors, there is a green in it and there is an orange yellow. So then you can also see that I have the accent colors here, which is this lighter brownish orange, and also added a cream with a little bit of a tinted green to balance out the middle portion of the rose. So why this works is because the cooler tones push the back petals back into recession, and it pushes the middle center, the warmth of my rose forward, which where I want the focal point of my rose to be. It works because the scheme makes it pleasing to the eye, which creates balance and harmony. And lastly, the orange and blue teals are far enough apart that it brings balance and they're not actually clashing. So if you're new to color realism and color theory and you want to use complementary colors, starting with analog colors is probably the easiest because analog colors are just colors right next to each other. So you have your red, orange, that goes into orange, and these colors create emotion and they're the easiest ones to start off with. So different colors bring forward different emotions. Red, you feel love, you feel anger, you feel warmth, you feel danger. So when a piece is all red, it brings a different dimension. You really have to think about what you want your piece to say. And then you have your greens and your yellows, which feel a little bit more toxic or a little bit more eerie, cool. And this can change the meaning of your tattoo as well. So if you look at my Hulk design, I used red and green in the design, and you can see that the green brings the Hulk more forward, it's more cool, but the red also brings a certain soft light to its face. It calms the design down a little bit more, but they're both complementary. So I wanted the feeling of strength and grit from the green, but I also wanted that soft light and emotion, that there's a softer side of the Hulk that we all know of. So before you start creating a design or start tattooing, you want to ask yourself these 4 questions to make sure that your color palette is ready to go and your design is cohesive. So number 1, what hue do I want? Number 2, do I need to lighten or darken the values, and how am I going to do that? Number 3, do I want high or low chroma? What type of skin tone am I about to tattoo? And 4, do I want this tattoo to be warm or do I want it to be cool? And how am I going to achieve that? How colors heal differently. This is also extremely important in tattooing because you want to choose the right colors for your client. And honestly, you're not going to really know until they come back healed. So it's really important to get your clients to come back and show you their healed work. So let's get into it. So first thing, Warm colors heal slightly darker and cool colors heal slightly muted. So you want to think about your chroma in that case. One way you can really tell is you can check your inks. Some inks are more pigmented and some are actually more diluted, and you would just check this on your glove, and we can get into that in another video, but that's something that some of the pros do. A more pigmented ink will heal brighter and actually saturates a lot better. So you have to use the proper inks and make sure you are knowledgeable about your ink set and what you're buying. And then another way that you can tell is keeping a mental note of what inks that you use in your tattoos and having your clients come back to see how those inks specifically healed. It takes a little bit longer, but that's how you're going to be the best. So another thing to keep in mind is chroma, the intensity of the color. High chroma, it heals more vibrant, and low chroma will heal more subtle and softer. And if you are tattooing melanated skin loves high intensity chroma inks. And if you are using warmer toned inks, it does need to be adjusted when you are tattooing melanated skin because warmer tones heal slightly darker. And the very last important thing about healing and color realism is that you have to remember that skin is a filter on top of the color ink. So you have to choose your colors properly to make sure it heals as vibrant as you want it to. So I want to leave you with a little something on how to practice with some simple exercises around color theory and color realism in tattooing. Here's one exercise that can help you transform your skills in color theory and color realism fast. So pick one object, a rose, a fruit, a pencil, doesn't matter as long as it's one object, and you're going to choose how to draw it in maybe 3 different ways if you have the time. So 1, using only warm colors, 2, using cool colors, or 3, using complementary colors. You'll instantly learn how contrast and temperature change the mood of your artwork. Next video, we'll go over more split complementary and everything we learned here about color theory and application of color realism, and I'll show you some of my heel work and why these techniques work. If you enjoyed this and want more videos on color theory, realism, and tattooing techniques, let me know in the comments below and press subscribe. And if you're an artist or a tattooer wanting to level up your color work, stick around because we're just getting started. Ciao for now.